snipers, you have to see what's happening to the Bitcoin price this Monday, as 5 minutes ago we have the first full 4-hour candle opening right now above this major resistance at 61,844. We've already come and tested the areas above that $62,000 level, but yet to see a full 4-hour confirmation. I had to get this video out to you guys as soon as possible, because right now in the next 4 hours, I think is going to be the most important determining factor for Bitcoin over the next few days, possibly even the next few weeks. And the reason I say that is we have made the assumption that for the bears in this market, they have potentially set Bitcoin up for a lower high. And at this point, this is really the most we could stretch for, because if we move further up and get that 4-hour confirmation above 61,844, the likelihood that we come to test the previous all-time high becomes high, and that puts us in a position to most likely break into price discovery. Of course, there's always that scenario that we could form a higher high like the total market cap has so far, but we cannot make that decision just yet to assume that we've seen any lower high or any high in general until we get a confirmation of a rejection, which we've yet to get. So this is a very important 4-hour candle in my opinion, and the reason I say that is if we get that full body and wick above it, the likelihood that we're going to come and test 64,855, the previous all-time high, becomes extremely possible. And so the other parts of the market that we're going to look at today includes Ethereum, of course, because a lot of people are assuming a major breakout right now with Ethereum, which is certainly on the table if Bitcoin is able to break through into price discovery. But what's very clear right now is we are facing a major resistance here inside of the symmetrical triangle right around that 39.59 resistance level. And we've yet to break the September 6 highs, in which we started to see altcoins really start to fade away in the market against Bitcoin, causing Bitcoin dominance to, of course, be above this 200-day moving average now with strong, decisive, bullish action over the last few weeks. Not a surprise for those that have been tuned in the Snipers channel. That is also causing the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart to break below this major support, below the 200-day moving average, which means if we continue to see this direction unfold, we're potentially targeting 53,500, which is about a 15% downside with where we're currently at. And so I think that this is a very important video. We're also going to look at the altcoins outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum, the traditional markets like the US dollar, the international markets, including the S&P 500. And then I want to talk about oil, gold, commodities, of course, are important to determine fear in the market. We're not seeing strength yet, but I want to talk about that. And then, of course, the precious metals against Bitcoin and Ethereum right now, because that's how we predicted the top in April 12th. And so I think it's fair to start looking at that right now, because there are some things that are very, very interesting on that chart. By the way, for those inside of our Discord group, I want to shout out Tim K for contributing this chart, showing Ethereum to Bitcoin coming and testing this major support level that we've been watching. It tells me that you guys are talking about this, and it's something you might want me to cover in my video. So the more engagement in the Discord, the better. The link is in the description below for those not in it. We have the #1 cryptocurrency Discord group in the world, one of the largest. And so I want to first look at Bitcoin right now. Since we're monitoring this 4-hour candle, I want to address the bears and the bulls, as we always do on this channel. And so for the bears, what I would say right now is one thing we can talk about is volume. We've yet to really see strong volume that equates to the type of sell pressure that we saw when we reached 53,000. Even when we were down here at the $41,000 level, we did see a lot of sell pressure, institutional type sell pressure, but we've yet to really see institutional decisions in this market, whether it's buying or selling. I think that that's something for the bears, because from my experience in the market, being in this market for a long time now, and of course being in the traditional markets since 2014, I would say that the biggest thing with volume right now is when price action is floating up, it's because it's the path of least resistance, which is sideways to a little bit higher. And if the low volume is in a period of price action moving up, what we could assume is institutions like to let the price float to the upside with retail to then bring it into the other direction with their actual volume, right? The same way that the opposite is true. When we started to come down, of course, they at one point started to levy off the volume. If we actually look at a more macro view, you'll get a better picture of what I'm talking about. We'll actually go to the daily chart. So the same thing works on the opposite side, where if the trend is down and we start to float down, notice how when we came down to 28K, we moved all the way back up to 40,000 again. But for the most part, we came all the way back down below 29,000 at one point, and that was with low volume. And since this trend was down, when the volume actually started to come in, it was buy pressure, and so that brought Bitcoin's price up. So it's almost like if price is floating up, the volume typically will come down. If the volume or if the price is floating down, the volume will typically come up. And so I think that it's interesting for the bears to notate that. For the bulls, what I will say is the total market cap has broken new all-time high. And that's not something that we can just kind of take off the table and put to the side as if it's not a big deal. Because I think that that's something that is very important for this market in general, and especially with most altcoins, I guess you can say, not necessarily seeing as much strength as they saw from the start of this year. It's interesting that the total market cap has been able to breach its previous all-time high. But as I mentioned before, if the total market cap is already creating a higher high, but Bitcoin is yet to really make the decision whether to form its lower high or to continue to price discovery, I don't think we can call this a rejection yet. And so I think that there's no top that we could assume has formed until we see something like what we saw on September 6th with a 19% candle to the downside. That's a rejection, right? So until we see a rejection, we have to assume for the bulls that we are testing new all-time highs with the total market, indicating that new money wants to come in. And so we haven't gotten a confirmation of a rejection here and a higher high, but it's on the table. We always want to try to assume and predict what's going to happen. And especially with the day traders, the reason that we've taken some successful shorts above 62,000, with the price at one point coming back below with a candle low 58,900, these are the telltale signs that there's significantly a large amount of traders and possibly institutions putting an importance on this level. I think that that's clearly depicted with where the monthly and weekly open sit. And notice how right now, if we look at the weekly open, it's just below the $61,844 level. And at a time that Bitcoin needs to make a decision on whether or not it wants to move to the upside or downside, our daily open went just above it. And so it put the major level right in between, which indicates, again, that this certainly is an important level. It's not just another test of resistance, because this resistance is a resistance that could potentially form a lower high for Bitcoin, because there's no other resistance that could do that at this point. So I hope that makes sense. And when we address what's happening to the altcoin market, this video is going to go a little long because this is a very big decision point for Bitcoin. And I'm back here in Los Angeles as well. So I am not on Dubai time anymore, which is exciting. The interesting part so far right now about all of this is if altcoins are truly starting to move into Bitcoin, then the Ethereum to US dollar price will not most likely break the September 6 highs. And so I think it's also a decision point here for Ethereum on whether or not altcoins are ready to show some strength, because that could happen in the future. But with Bitcoin dominance moving up, there's two reasons that could happen. And the reason in 2018 is because the total market cap was ready to come down. And when that happened, we saw alts move into Bitcoin. And while Bitcoin was coming down, the alts even bled more, not just in US dollar terms, but also against Bitcoin, because they wanted to hedge more and more. And that brought Bitcoin dominance up. So I hope you understand that side. And then the other reason Bitcoin dominance could go up is because Bitcoin itself, and usually only Bitcoin, is entering price discovery, and it's the early stages of it. And at that point, Bitcoin will go and try to find its price before altcoins start to move following that. And that will typically bring Bitcoin dominance up as it's moving right now. Take it to the 200-week moving average. Then we start deciding what altcoins are going to start moving, and then we see Bitcoin dominance come down again, and that's called an altcoin season, like what we saw in the start of this year in January. And so I think that those two understandings of Bitcoin dominance could really just put it, in a very simple format, that there's two scenarios here right now, that we're either forming a lower high to see the overall market come down. That's why Bitcoin dominance is moving up, or because Bitcoin is entering into a new bull cycle. So that's the most unbiased and umpire perspective I think I can give you guys. And when it comes to the altcoins outside of Ethereum and Bitcoin, what we're seeing here is weakness below the 200-day moving average. And that's never a good thing, because that could be the early start of a downtrend, especially when the 200-day moving average is quite high. And we failed to break the highs that were initially formed in May. And because of that, we assumed a lower high here, and that ended up being true, which is why I don't think it's a bad idea to assume lower highs on Bitcoin at any point, especially when it really is going to find the answer here real soon. So the DXY is actually pushing down. We're going to really monitor this range that we're in. I couldn't really say that this has been rejected, but this is giving some room for markets to move up. The S&P 500, because of that, is showing some calmness above the 50-day moving average. Nothing crazy or decisive. And of course, the crypto market has been floating up and down, fighting that $61,844 level. With international markets, Japan is finally looking somewhat, okay. But China and the gold, I would say, primarily are the two markets right now that are really still very stagnant and slow, with the CSI 300 below the 100 and 200-day moving average, and gold also below the 100 and 200-day moving average. It's interesting to just keep those isolated. Euro 100 doing very well. And then, of course, with oil, we are breaking into new highs, which is very fun to see here. Question is, with demand waning off to around 99 million barrels per month, in comparison to 2019, when Cathie Woods is predicting it peaked out at 111 barrels per month. I think that it's interesting to see an asset that has demand waning off continue to move up, and supply is quite substantial at this point for oil for the most part. So we look at what's happening to the gold to Bitcoin chart. The reason we want to monitor this, sorry, I'm so jet lagged right now. I'm very tired as well. I was on a 16-hour flight, still been up for the last 24 hours, I told you guys. So I hope that the slow analysis isn't hurting anyone. April 14th, we used the gold to Bitcoin chart correlation to see how close we were coming to this 50-day moving average. You guys know the story, and that predicted the top here on April 14th. But unlike what happened in 2018, where we continued further up for quite a while, we've already come back below the 50-day moving average and already coming to test this previous low. This is a very important range right now for this chart, because a break below this is a confirmation for the bulls. So that's another puzzle piece that the bulls can take home. And with that being said, we've been covering this cryptocurrency market with a video every single day for the last 4 years, and Bitcoin is at $7,000 US. So for anyone calling us bearish for just discussing a bearish scenario every single day on our channel because we want to address the bulls and the bears, I think that's quite of a harsh thing to say. Just realize that, even with a pullback to 40,000, even a pullback to 30,000, even a pullback down to 20,000, that's a higher price than when we even started covering Bitcoin. And so when it comes to a bear market, maybe for those that just joined into this, world of cryptocurrency, it might sound bearish to you, but we're just being very realistic here that the bears need to be addressed at every point. And if not, then at some point or another, you will be caught on the wrong side of the stick, right? So seeing an all-time high is going to be very fun for Bitcoin, for it to break back to price discovery and have the shortest bear market in the history of its price. I think is a very exciting thing, and we'd be very happy to see that. I'd be very happy to see that, and it's obviously rewarding. I'd say that for the most part, but I'm always trying to be unbiased for you guys, and I want to always keep that clear. And with that being said, thank you all for tuning in to the Snipers channel today. I'm going to get some rest, and until next time, Snipers